A man is buying bread. Just like every morning, he is bargaining over the price. The baker, as usual, is tired of this. In the back somewhere, a donkey is slowly turning the millstone. The smell of fresh bread fills every corner. A woman is arguing with the food stall about the ingredients of yesterday's meal. A stray dog is sleeping on the hot stones of a side street, completely unaware of all this noise. 2 children are running around in the forum, probably being scolded by someone who isn't their father. This is a noisy, crowded, ruthless city operating at full speed. August 24th, AD 79. And about 4 hours later, every single one of these people you see now will look at the mountain they have lived under their entire lives for the last time. The mountain their parents and grandparents grew up in the shadow of. And very soon, they will realize they were never truly safe. Today, we are returning to Pompeii. Not to the ruins, not to the disaster. We are returning to the morning before, to a city of 20,000 people. People who have no idea what is about to happen, going about their daily lives as usual. We will walk the streets, visit the bakeries, the food stalls, the forum, the Gladiator Barracks. We will see firsthand how these people lived, what they ate, what they argued about, and what they valued. And using AI Reconstruction, we will bring everything back to life to convey not what Pompeii looked like, but what it felt like to be there. At the end of the video, there is something that will shake you deeply. These people did not feel like ancient history. They felt like an ordinary Tuesday. It is 4 in the morning, 2 hours until sunrise. Pompeii is already awake. This is something most people completely misunderstand about the Roman world. It was not a slow-moving civilization barely lit by torches. It was loud, it was running at full speed, and it started long before dawn. At the very bottom of this machine were the people who woke up before the city did, so that everything would be ready when others arrived. 30 to 40% of Pompeii's population were slaves. They were the city's infrastructure. They were what made the city function. And nowhere is this more strikingly visible than here. The bakery. There are 35 bakeries in Pompeii. 35. For a city of about 20,000 people. That means 1 bakery for every 570 inhabitants. The reason there are so many is simple. Romans almost never cooked at home. The vast majority of apartments in Roman cities had no kitchens. It was not safe to control fire in multi-story buildings. The people of Pompeii, just like here, ate collectively from places like this. The mill had already started working. A donkey was turning an endless, monotonous circle around the millstone carved from volcanic stone, transforming the grain that would feed the city into flour. This animal had drawn the same circle every morning of its life. It would do it again tomorrow. But it didn't. Pompeian bread was actually found. When archaeologists excavated the city's bakeries, they discovered loaves still inside the ovens, carbonized. The volcanic ash that killed the person who put them there had preserved these breads. On their upper surfaces was a round, grooved pattern, the kind of lines you can still see in any artisanal bakery today. Someone had baked these loaves on the morning of August 24th. Someone had shaped them by hand, put them in the oven, and hoped to sell them before noon. They never had the chance. 7 o'clock. The streets come alive. And this is where it gets interesting. Pompeii's streets are narrow, noisy, and extremely unforgiving. Look at the ground beneath your feet. The stone surface you are walking on is not just a pavement. It is the city's drainage system. Everything flows over it. Look at the large stone blocks on the other side of the road. They are placed high enough to pass, exactly between the wheel ruts. This way, pedestrians could cross without stepping on everything the street carried. This is not primitiveness. This is engineering. Walk a little further down the main commercial street, and you will see a street barber working on the sidewalk, sitting on his stool, doing his job intertwined with pedestrian traffic. Right next to him is Pompeii's fast food version, a thermopolium. Hot meals are served in ceramic pots set directly into the stone counter. Archaeologists examining the contents of one of these pots found traces of duck, pork, fish, snail, and beef. the food of a city that had preferences and opinions about lunch. But what stops you the most are the walls. More than 11,000 pieces of graffiti have been catalogued in Pompeii. This is not vandalism. This is communication. The walls of this city were also its internet, its political campaign space, its personal insult corner, its poetry board, its job review platform, and its love declaration wall. Someone named Success wrote on the wall that he was in love with a barmaid named Iris. Probably a rival wrote underneath that Iris didn't care about him at all. A supporter responded. The argument is still on the wall 2,000 years later, unresolved. These were not ancient people. These were people. At the center of everything is the Forum, and on this particular morning, the Forum is especially busy. Pompeii is right in the middle of election season. The city has its own municipal government. Magistrates are elected every year by popular vote. Judging by the density of election graffiti spread across the walls, this year's competition is quite fierce. But the Forum is not just about politics. There is religion, justice, and social representation. The temples surrounding it are not separate from civic life. They are civic life itself. The priests performing morning rituals on these altars are essentially civil servants. The gods are like business partners. You offer sacrifices, burn incense, pray. They give protection and favorable signs. The relationship requires daily maintenance. Today, some are not managing this relationship very well. In the south of Pompeii, right behind the city's theater, there's a structure that many visitors quickly pass by, the Gladiator Barracks. If you think gladiators were desperate and terrified slaves forced into the arena against their will, you largely owe that to Hollywood. The reality was much more complex and much more interesting. Pompeii's best gladiators were professional athletes. They had careers, income, contracts, and fan bases. They were literally celebrities. Their names were written on walls, women wrote poems for them, and some earned serious money. Pompeii was obsessed with the games, just as we are obsessed with professional sports today. They had favorites, they argued about matches, they placed bets, they had loudly expressed opinions. What is happening in this courtyard on the morning of August 24th is not dramatic. It is methodical, technical, repetitive, unglamorous professional training, the work done backstage for the show. These men had no idea this would be their last training session. Now, cross the city to the north. The tone completely changes. The private residences of the rich, the Domus, are a completely different world. Everything in their architecture is inward-facing. Light, water, the attention of anyone who steps inside, a central pool open to the sky, gardens painted on the walls, roses in the courtyard. In a private room, on a makeup table, there are bronze tweezers, hairpins, small mirrors, and perfume bottles that still carried traces of their original scents when excavated. The desire to look a certain way before facing the world is as old as civilization itself. The detail of that perfume still in the bottle moves something inside you when you realize it was left there. But this comfort and beauty is built on something that must be clearly stated. The comfort of this house comes from the fact that other people's days are not comfortable. The slaves protecting the house woke up hours before those inside. And, at the entrance, 4 words worked into the floor with thousands of tiny mosaic tiles. Beware of the dog. This warning has stood exactly there since the house was built. It is still there today. Walk to the southern edge. The city and the smell hit you before anything else. Fish, salt, and the sharp, fermented taste of something most people today have never even heard of: garum. If you want to understand why Pompeii was so commercially important this morning, you need to understand garum. It is a fermented fish sauce produced in factories along this coastline. Without exaggeration, it was the most widespread commercial spice of the ancient world. Garum from Campanian workshops reached tables from Britain to Egypt. It was the backbone of Roman cuisine, the thing that added imperial flavor to every dish. Pompeii stands right at the center of this supply chain. The harbor is working at full capacity this morning, just like every morning, because garum has to move. Wine from local volcanic soil has to move. Olive oil has to move. The trade routes of the Bay of Naples do not stop because of earthquakes, drying fountains, or restless horses. Enter the market and look at what is on display: figs, olives, walnuts, dried dates, fresh bread, wine. This is the Mediterranean diet of AD 79. It strikingly overlaps with today's Mediterranean diet. The continuity these foods have carried for 2,000 years creates a quiet astonishment all by itself. Beneath the temples, politics, and gladiators, Pompeii is actually this: a commercial engine. A city built on movement, on things flowing from one point to another and money changing hands. This morning, the engine is working perfectly. Tomorrow, it will not. Think about this honestly. If the water in your house was cut off this morning, would you leave the city? Probably not. You would call the water company. You would fill a few bottles, you would get angry, and you would not conclude that your life was in danger just because of that. In the days leading up to August 24th, the wells around Pompeii began to dry up. Underground water levels were shifting. Something was moving underground, pushing the groundwater out of where it had been for centuries. This is a classic sign of volcanic activity. We know that now. In AD 79, nobody knew, because the concept of a volcano as we understand it did not yet exist. The ground was also cracking. New cracks appeared in roads and courtyard floors that weren't there a week earlier. As the magma moved beneath the surface, stress lines formed in the terrain above. And then the fountains fell silent. One of the main fountains on Pompeii's main streets stops flowing. It had never been silent this long in the people's memory. That morning, women coming to fill their containers stand in front of the dry stone fountain and wonder what to do. And almost all of them reach the same conclusion: a temporary malfunction. There's a problem with the aqueduct. Someone will fix it. This is exactly how people process ambiguous information. We gravitate toward the least dramatic explanation. Animals do not do this. The horses in the stables of Pompeii's wealthy families have been refusing their feed since early morning. They keep pacing. They won't calm down. Dogs refuse to come inside. And the birds? The birds are about to make a decision that will embarrass every human in this city. The tremors have been increasing since dawn. Small tremors that shake glasses and open new cracks in the plaster. But Pompeii has a ready framework for tremors. The earthquake of AD 62 had hit the region hard. The city had been rebuilt for 17 years. When the glasses shake, Pompeii residents turn to a familiar explanation. This is another 62. It will pass. We survived it before. This framework is about to prove fatally inadequate. Around 11 in the morning, every bird perched on the colonnaded walkway of the Forum suddenly takes flight at the same moment, without panic, without scattering, and flies straight away from the mountain. They do not return. Around 1 in the afternoon, the summit of Vesuvius is breached. There is no sign different from the previous tremors, no warning. One moment the mountain is where it has always been, green, familiar, completely ordinary on the northern horizon. Then it is not. The eruption column rises. Within minutes, it reaches a height exceeding 20 kilometers. At its peak, it ejects about 1.5 million tons of material per minute. This is one of the most powerful volcanic eruptions in Europe's recorded history. And it is happening directly above a city of 20,000 people. No one understands what they are looking at. The first thing to fall on Pompeii is pumice. Small, porous volcanic stones raining from the sky like hail. This phase of the eruption lasts for hours. Pumice accumulates at about 15 centimeters per hour. And here is the point that changes everything. It does not kill people immediately. This is an escape window. Almost all of those who survived Pompeii used this window. In the first hours, while the streets were still terrifying but passable, they wrap cloths around their heads, take everything they can carry, and leave through the city gates. The vast majority who do not look back never return. We know almost nothing about these people. History remembers those who remained. Some of those who remained buried their valuables before leaving, planning to return once things calmed down. We know this because archaeologists constantly find similar remains under the floors of Pompeii. Silver, hastily hidden household treasures. Their owners could not return to retrieve them. The window closed much faster than anyone expected. Pompeii passes knee height, then hip height. Roofs collapse under the weight. Ground floor doors become impossible to open due to pressure from the other side. The streets become impassable. And then complete darkness falls. Not night darkness, not storm darkness. A darkness so thick that a burning torch only illuminates a small circle around it. And beyond that circle, there is absolutely nothing. Those inside make the only calculation they have. A thick-walled, solid Roman house is safer than walking blindly in this darkness. For a while, they are right. Between the night of August 25th and dawn, the eruption column begins to destabilize. When it collapses, the material that had been carried upward for hours suddenly has no choice but to spread outward and downward in all directions at once. It turns into a pyroclastic density current. What comes after is lethal. About 2,000 people. The vast majority had survived everything until this point. Most had made the most logical decisions they could with the information they had. They had found solid walls, closed the shutters, kept the children calm, and were waiting for everything to pass. The pyroclastic wave is not fire. It is not lava. It is something the ancient world had neither a word nor a concept for. A cloud of superheated gas, ash, and volcanic rock fragments moving at speeds of up to 700 kilometers per hour, at temperatures between 400 and 700 degrees. You cannot protect yourself from it. You cannot escape it. It moves faster than sound. At 6:30 on the morning of August 25th, the fourth pyroclastic wave reaches Pompeii. Those who had taken shelter in the strongest structures they could find lost their lives to thermal shock before the wave even hit the walls. Then, a silence fell over the Bay of Naples that would last nearly 1,700 years. Pompeii was sealed. Every room, every street, every object, every person remained exactly as they were the moment the wave arrived. The volcanic material created an almost perfectly oxygen-free environment. Almost no oxygen, almost no moisture. Wood survived. Fabric survived. Food survived. The painted walls were preserved in such vivid colors that when the excavation lights first hit them, they looked as if they had been painted the previous week. The people did not survive, but their forms remained. In 1863, the excavation director Giuseppe Fiorelli noticed voids in the hardened volcanic deposit, cavities where the rock contained nothing. He understood what they were. He poured liquid plaster into small holes. When the plaster hardened and the surrounding rock was carefully removed, what emerged was not a skeleton. It was a person frozen in the middle of movement, their clothes folded. Sometimes a readable expression is still visible on their face. This morning, he held that bread. He dropped coins at the thermopolium counter. He helped a child crossing the stone blocks in the street. Then he stopped. The bakery is still there. The volcanic stone millstones have not moved from where the donkey turned them on the morning of August 24th. The stone blocks still stand in the street. The wheel ruts are still visible. The pavement is still in place. The Beware of the Dog mosaic is still doing its job at the entrance of a roofless, ownerless house. The bread is in a museum in Naples. Black, old, perfect. The grooved pattern on every round loaf is the same as the one we saw in the bakery this morning. The time difference between the hand that baked it and the glass display case behind which it now stands is 2,000 years. And somehow it feels like no time at all. The mountain is still there. Of course it is. It has erupted more than 50 times since AD 79. Today, 3 million people live in designated danger zones. Volcanologists monitor it constantly. They cannot say when it will erupt. But they can say that it will. And yet, 3 million people still live there. Because the mountain has always been there. Because the soil is extraordinary. Because it is home. because the calculation that the danger is real but most likely will not happen in their lifetime is statistically probably correct. The people of Pompeii were making exactly the same calculation on the morning of August 24th. The only difference is that we have better tools today. Pompeii is not a lesson about volcanoes. It is a mirror. Every city believes the ground beneath it is permanent. Every person thinks that Tuesday morning will turn into Tuesday evening. The people of Pompeii argued about politics, cared about their appearance, spoiled their pets, had favorite athletes, and bought ready-made food on their way to work. And they woke up on an ordinary morning without ever imagining they wouldn't go to bed that night. They did not feel like ancient history. They felt exactly like you. And that is exactly why Pompeii was preserved, to show us this. If this video made you feel something, if these people stopped feeling like ancient history for a moment and started feeling like neighbors, then this channel is for you. We return every week. Subscribe so you don't miss the next stop, and we bring them back to life with AI Reconstruction. See you in the next one.